Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. Time is 7:01 p.m. and the date is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. The board currently consists of 5 members and 1 alternate. The alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Members present tonight are Alicia Sweeney, Paul Isherwood, Aaron Thomas, and alternate Shay Myers, who will be a full voting member for this meeting. I'm Rob Delich, Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Also present representing the city are the Zoning Administrator, Mr. David Riggs. There is 1 case on tonight's agenda for property located at 5 Ring Street. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak tonight concerning any item on the agenda, please stand. I think it's just you. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You can be seated for now. I now invite you to view a pre-recorded video of the rules of the board.
The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according under the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 23.7.3b, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The spirit of the code is observed. Public safety and welfare are secured and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 23.7.10c, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact, based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship because of exceptional or extraordinary conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property. A literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature, the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property, for which variance is sought one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens aggrieved by a decision of the Board may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the Board to the applicant.
All right, so our case on the agenda tonight is case number 25-09V at 5 Ring Street. The appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 23.03.11A1 to allow a structure 2 feet from the rear where 5 feet is required and 1.5 feet from the left side where 5 feet is required. Mr. Riggs, do you have a brief of the case for us, please?
Just real quick, this is a small triangular shaped lot in an R1 zone, so it's going to have some issues just because it's not a standard size lot. It's also a small lot, I think just over 5,000 square feet. So this would, I think, a few years ago there was another variance for this property because of the small size. To put the residential home in there. Now our zoning code has changed since then, and it wouldn't be required now, but we still require this 5-foot setback for accessory structures.
And the zoning changed such that the setback would have been different,
front
right?
yard setback, if I recall, it was 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was a front yard setback variance, and that has changed.
And did the side and back setbacks change as well? I was thinking they did.
Yeah.
They were reduced to 5 feet from something higher, like
yeah.
8 feet or something,
Yeah.
right? I think.
Yeah, those changed, as well as the lot coverage percentage changed as well, for those as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Riggs?
I like your street view on Google Maps.
Yeah, there's street view here because I shot it in, was it April, February,
Yeah.
something like that, sometime this early spring. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to ask the appellant or the representative to approach the podium and provide any pertinent testimony. Identify yourself, of course. Provide any pertinent testimony or give reason why the request should be viewed favorably.
Sure, yeah. My name is Michael Rinaldi Eichenberg, so I am the owner and resident at 5 Ring. And as Mr. Riggs alluded to, the lot is rather small and it is triangular in shape. So I have needed a variance for each one of the buildings, both my home and the garage before this. And so it's just kind of the nature of the lot. And so I have a need for firewood storage. And again, because of the size and shape of the lot, there are very limited options in terms of where to place it. And I think this is an option that is kind of least in view, isn't going to obscure any of the neighbors' access to light or views. There are really only 2 places where I could imagine placing this, unless I wanted to plop it right in the middle of the front yard, which I don't. But I could put it next to the driveway, so it'd be like to the northwest of the driveway. That'd kind of be in the face of one of the neighbors. And the other option is where I'm suggesting in the documents I provided. And I think that would just be kind of tucked out of view. I've spoken with the neighbor that whose property abuts that side, and she's totally fine with it, has no problems. She's got a little shed there. It's not a permanent structure, but it's not going to impede her access to light or any views or anything like that. There's a pretty steep incline behind the house. So yeah.
Okay. Any questions for the appellant? I guess one thing, I have a clarification. I think from what I saw somewhere that the back property line is actually an alley. That's an alley owned by the city, is that right? So it's not like your neighbor's property right up to your, it is an alley, is that correct?
Correct. It's city
Okay.
right of way. I think it's about 10 or 15 feet wide.
And it's really not being used by the city at all. In fact, the back sort of looks like the back corner near where the shed's going to be is pretty overgrown and just wild back there, right?
I tame it now and then, try to beat back nature a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a green barrier for the most part back there.
Yeah, so I think that weighs in here as well, in my opinion, that it's not even adjacent property owner that the 2-foot setback is from. It's from a city right-of-way that's not being used. Any questions for the appellant?
So,
All right. Anything else you want to add before you sit down?
think that's it.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you very much. We'll call you back up if we need you. So is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor of the request? We just had someone join us. Okay. I will say there was an email sent, and it's in the record, but I think I'm going to read it anyway, just so it's anybody watching and anyone here in the room is aware of this. So since July 8th today, case number 2509V about the property at 5 Ring Street, Ohio, Athens, Ohio. Dear members of the board, I am writing in support of the variance request submitted by my neighbor, Michael Rinaldi Eichenberg, for the construction of a wood storage shed at 5 Ring Street. I own 7 Ring Street, directly adjacent to Michael's property, and I can confidently say he has always been a considerate and responsible neighbor. I have reviewed Michael's plans and have no objections to its proposed location. Given the size and shape of his lot, I understand why a variance is necessary to make this project work. The shed is intended to store firewood in a more organized and visually appropriate way, and its placement is thoughtful, tucked out of view, and designed not to impact neighboring properties. I believe the proposed shed will be an improvement over the current open wood pile and will have no negative impact on surrounding properties. I fully support his request and encourage the board to approve the variance. Thank you for consideration. Sincerely, Eric and Allie Lee. So, no one else here willing or wanting to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in general comment or in opposition? Okay, so I am now going to close testimony from the floor, and the board will deliberate.
I don't see any issue.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a weird lot.
Yeah, it's a very strange lot. There would definitely be practical difficulty and undue hardship to stay within the setbacks for this particular.
Yeah, like I said, I think mitigating it a little bit is the fact that it's a city alley that's unused behind.
Yeah.
So it's really just the side.
Yeah.
That's the concern then. And as the appellant mentioned, there is a temporary shed, not a permanent
Next door.
structure, right there. It's probably 1.5 feet from the line as well. It's right close to the line. So the other property owner has something sitting about the same kind of position. Maybe it's a little further down the line slightly, but it's about as close to the line as this would be.
He already had other variants for the garage and the house, so everything for that lot is going to need variance.
Yeah.
This is already a structure. I mean, if you look at the image, I mean, I don't know how accurate this is, but like I'm guessing this is the garage. That's obviously not within the setback, so it would be.
Right, he had to come get a variance for
And
the garage too. so-
The front setbacks at the time would have been 20 feet, 20 or 25 feet.
25 or 30.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's not as far now. It's 15, I think. 15, not including stoop.
Might even be less than
Might
that,
be-
maybe 10.
I had suggested it be changed to 10 to the planning commission, and they
Is
didn't
it
take
15?
that, but they
Yeah.
took the stoop out as
Okay,
being
that's what it
counted. So I'm pretty sure it's 15. But still, the garage would have been within 15 feet even in this case, would have still needed a variance, I'm sure. The house maybe not, but with the new regulations, but so
Director Riggs, are there any exceptions in the zoning code for small structures like sheds with under a certain square footage? I mean, I'm just curious for clarification. I mean, this is, I think, under 100 square feet. Are there exceptions to the setbacks for structures at any small size, or is there nothing like that in the code? Okay.
There's not.
All right.
but it is a permanent structure, and so therefore, if it was temporary in some way, like a temporary shed like the
At the
one
neighbors.
next door,
Yeah, the board has the ability to grant temporary, temporary structures and uses here. If somebody comes and wants one, like a third structure, for instance, you can only have two accessory structures. Somebody wanted a third temporary structure, they could come before the board, and you could grant a temporary use.
So, and the code doesn't also there's no distinction between, like, say, a shed that's built on a raised foundation versus a permanent foundation, like a
No, yeah.
So it's all treated the same.
So a lot of times people will say, well, it's not permanent, so that shed with just, you just sits on the ground, but we consider that a permanent structure, even though it doesn't have a foundation, a concrete foundation or a block foundation.
All right. Why don't we at least go through the questions here and go through the process. So are there exceptional circumstances? Yeah.
A lot. A lot in general.
Property in question has exceptional circumstances based on the orientation, the size, the shape,
Yeah.
and don't generally apply to other properties. Most properties aren't
Correct.
this complicated. Is there practical difficulty and undue hardship? Literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship. So, yeah, I think it doesn't make sense to make this guy's life harder.
No, I feel like he's trying to do better by keeping the wood out of the yard and putting it in the structure.
Yeah, right.
So.
Preservation of equal property rights. Next door neighbor has a
Neighbor,
shed
yeah.
sitting about as far from the property line, it looked to me.
And it really doesn't feel like there'd be anywhere else he could put this structure, so it would almost be denying him the ability to have any kind of storage structure like that.
Yeah.
It's right next to the neighbors, so.
Minimum variance.
But from the image, it doesn't look like there's much more room that could come in anyway.
Right. And again, I think that's sort of mitigated a bit by the alley
Yeah.
in the back, at least the backside. Absence of detriment. We heard unofficially one neighbor is okay with this, the
Support.
other neighbor officially. So
Support
it
of
doesn't
it.
seem to be
No one has come and
detrimental.
spoken at or opposed it.
Not of a general nature. I do not believe it's of a general nature.
I think the lot is so
Yeah.
abnormal.
Triangle.
There's nothing that you could say would be general about this.
Yeah.
So would someone from the board like to propose a motion?
I will make a motion to grant a variance from ACC 23.03.11A1 to allow a structure 2 feet from the rear where 5 feet is required at the address of 5 Ring Street and a half foot from the left side where 5 feet is required. Do I need to put the case number in there?
Yes, please.
For case number 25-09B.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, you have your variance, 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, we have one other order of business. Disposition of minutes from June 10th. Members present were Aaron, Thomas, myself, Paul Isherwood, Alicia Sweeney, and Ben Lockman. So Shay won't be voting on this, but the other 4 of us were all present. Would someone like to make a motion to approve or modify if needed?
I will make a motion to approve the ZBA minutes from June 10th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand. 4-0, minutes are approved. We are adjourned.
Yay.